he said, "You know what? There is no hope out of you. I don't have any childhood friends because I couldn't speak to anybody." And then I saw that speech of yours, and I want to tell you that I am alive today because of what you said.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential. Computer engineering graduate from Saudi Arabia who turned his stuttering and stage fright into a journey of triumph. He started with Toastmasters, and after years of dedicated practice, he became the Toastmasters World Champion of Public Speaking in 2015. Today, he's a global speaker and coach, inspiring countless others to conquer their fears, communicate confidently, and make a positive impact on the world. Join us as we explore his incredible journey from self doubt to world champion public speaker and discover the secrets behind his success. So, without further ado, I'm super excited to have Mohammed Qahtani on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
What initially drew you to the world of public speaking, and how did your journey begin? Because from a computer engineering graduate to public speaking, it's totally different. So, how did that all begin?
For me, actually, like public speaking was something that I've always tried to avoid. As a child, I suffered from severe stuttering and I was always mocked, always laughed at. I remember when I was in first grade, a teacher was yelling at me because I couldn't read. And he said one thing that stuck with me. He said, "You know what? There is no hope out of you." And he just carried on with the rest of the class. But that statement kind of stuck with me, and I felt like I am less than anybody else. Like I have something to hide, something to be ashamed of. I'm not even worthy of the kindness of people because I could speak. And it lasted with me until the last year of high school. I don't have any childhood friends because I couldn't speak to anybody. I was always by myself. I go to school, come home, lock myself in my room because in my mind, the teacher said there is no hope out of me. It's hopeless. So why even try? But then I remember it was last year of high school, and one day I was leaving the school, and there's a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was a fellow student in my class, and he looked at me and he said, "You know, I don't think I ever heard you talk." And I remember I took a piece of paper and I wrote, "I can't speak." I actually like handed it to him, and he said, "If you were mute, you would not be with us in this school. You'll be in special schools. But since you're here, that means you can't talk. Your problem is you're afraid. You're afraid of people. However, I can help you. I can cure your stuttering. Would you like that?" And I kind of nodded my head. And he said, "In order for you to overcome any fear, you need to face the ultimate form of that fear." He said, "Tomorrow morning, ask the principal that you want to read the morning announcement in front of the entire school. And I promise you, this will cure your stuttering." And when you are desperate and somebody throws you a lifeline, an idea, even if the idea doesn't make sense, just because you're desperate, you will do it. So I decided to take his advice and I went to the principal. I said, "I would like to read the morning announcement." And he gave it to me. I stood in front of the entire class. I mean, like the entire school. And I opened my mouth, started to speak, and I stuttered again. And I still remember to this day, everybody was laughing at me. You know, the one thing that I've always avoided my entire life, I voluntarily walked right into it. Why? Just because somebody gave me an advice? So I went to the student during recess and I said, "Is that what you wanted to see? Like you wanted to see me being humiliated out there? I hope you're happy." And he said, "It's not going to happen the first time. Success doesn't happen from the first time. Go back and try again." So I did the second day, the day after. I noticed every time I speak in public, I stuttered less and less. And that's when I actually fell in love with performing and speaking in front of people. Because for me, it's the only way I can remedy the situation. It's the only way that I can overcome my stuttering. So that's how I developed the passion for speaking.
Amazing. It's such a big achievement, too. It's an internal battle as much as it is an external battle. So, how did you handle the emotional side of this challenge? And what advice do you have for others going through the same thing?
Well, the first thing that I would give for people who go through stuttering or suffer from stuttering is never ever look at it as something to be ashamed of or as it's something wrong with you. It's just part of your personality quirks. That's just who you are. That was a mistake that I made when I was younger. Is like I always looked at it as something to be ashamed of or something to hide. It's not. The second thing that you can do is speak slower. When you slow your pace, because as a stutterer, always you wanted to get rid of the words because speaking for you is a challenge. So stutterers, they tend to speak fast, and the faster you speak, the more that it will happen. So always remind yourself that I should slow down your pace, and read a lot, because when you read, you'll have a lot of vocabularies, and you can actually replace a word that you're struggling with a word that might have the same meaning, and that will be your first steps to overcome it. Also, have a hobby that you can excel in. Why? Because when you do, it's going to elevate your self-esteem. A lot of the people who stutter, they have self-doubt. They have a lot of self-doubt, and they think they're not good enough or whatever. So when you have a hobby and you excel at it, and people notice that you are, then it builds up your self-confidence, and hopefully that will help you overcome it.
So you didn't have any professional help with the stuttering, you just
No,
practiced every day?
my dad, he took me to a doctor once, but the doctor told him this is a brain issue. I think it was a bad doctor or something. He said like there's something wrong with his head or whatever. You can actually, like, if it's really bad and you tried all of this stuff and didn't work, you can actually seek a speech therapist, because not every stutter is the same. Some people, they stutter with just a sound. Some people stutter with words. Some people stutter with both. So I'm just sharing whatever I tried and it worked for me. But if it didn't work for you, then yeah, you probably should just ask a speech therapist for a time of advice. However, try it first. Try the reading a lot and the speaking slowly, whatever, and see if that helps.
It's amazing the journey that you've had to overcome the fear. And the way I found you was somebody recommended you through your video, The Power of Words. So for those, I'll leave the link in the description for the video. It's only a short video. It's like 8 to 10 minutes long, but it's incredibly moving and impactful. And it just showed the essence of a great storyteller and how to inspire people. So tell me, what inspired you to create that winning speech? And how did you craft that message to resonate so deeply with your audience and the judges?
It's a funny story actually, because it was one day at work, and me and a colleague of mine, we were outside smoking. And I've been trying for a long time to come up with a speech idea for this contest, but every idea that I come up with, it never works. But anyway, so we're standing outside, we're smoking, and then an old man passed by, and he looked at us and he said, "Guys, why do you smoke?" I'm like, "It's bad for your health. Look at you, you're still young." And he was very empathetic, and he was trying to help. And I felt kind of ashamed, like I was about to throw the cigarette away. But then my friend looked at him and he said, "Actually, sir, that's not true. If you search online, you will not find one single medical research that proves there's a link between smoking and lung disease or heart disease or any of that stuff. There is not a single medical research that shows a link." And the guy said, "Well, there's no medical research, then why is it always even in the packet it says it causes cancer?" And my friend said, "Do you have any idea how much money the tobacco company makes? They make so much money. If they did not regulate it, they would control the world. This is just all politics." And the guy's like, "Wow, I did not know that." And he walked away. I'm standing there and I'm shocked too. I looked at my friend and said, this is new information to me too. Like, I'm really shocked. And my friend looked at me and said, "I just made it up." But what struck with me is the way he spoke. He spoke like with confidence that I myself even believed him, even though the idea was outrageous. But because he said it with confidence and using the right words, he was able to change people's minds. And then it occurred to me, if this guy could change my perspective about smoking, which we all know is bad for you, but if he can't do that, what else can you do with your words? And then I started writing.
Yeah, it was very short. The message was just beautiful. If you wanted to write a speech, how do you make a great impact when writing a speech?
So for this contest, the speaker has to speak from 5 to 7 minutes. So you are bounded by the time. You cannot really speak for a lot longer than that, which is actually a challenge on itself. Like, how can you craft a speech and be convincing in that short amount of time? However, the plus side of it is you don't have to write a lot. So you just push everything like in a short amount of time. But answering the question, how can you write a speech? You might find people who will tell you the secret recipe to good speak or whatever. There is no secret recipe. I'm here to tell you there's no secret recipe. The one key thing is speak about something that you truly believe in and something from the heart. And always have your audience come first, meaning don't speak for the glory, don't speak for the fame, don't speak to get paid. Yes, all this stuff could happen later, but don't let it be your main objective. Let your main objective is, I really hope there's a person out there who might listen to what I say and change their lives. And when you speak with that, your words come with passion, and the audience would listen and will actually believe.
Yeah, it was incredible. It's true. It's the power of words can simply just do so much damage, but so much good as well. In terms of speaking, can you share some tips for overcoming nervousness or stage fright when speaking in public? Everybody has to learn how to speak eventually. Even if you don't want to be a public speaker, I think at some point you need to speak, like whether it's a job interview or you're trying to sell something. In terms
Yes.
of nervousness on stage, how do you overcome that?
So People get nervous when speaking in front of a crowd for two reasons. Reason number one is I'm afraid that maybe I make a mistake, or maybe I forget what to say, or what if I tell a joke and nobody laughs? What is the audience going to think of me? I'm going to mess things up. The second reason why people are afraid is they think to themselves, who am I in front of this person? So, for example, if you're going to speak in front of a crowd who are CEOs or managers or whatever, you start to think, who am I in front of these people? I am a nobody, right? Now, to overcome this second reason, let me ask you this question. If I asked you to speak in front of 500 people, however, all of them are 5 year olds, would you be afraid?
Of course not.
But why? It's 500 people. But why you wouldn't be afraid? The reason why you wouldn't be afraid is because while you are up there, you know that you know more than them, you have more experience than them, you have more knowledge than them. Somehow, not being an egotistic, but somehow you feel I'm better than them, right? Therefore, why should I be afraid? Now, I truly believe, and I always tell people this, God created every individual with a unique talents that nobody else has. Everybody on this planet can do something that nobody else on this world can do. You, Linda, are better than everybody. Everybody on earth in something. I am better than everybody on earth in something. And this is true for everybody. So always remind yourself when you are in front of people. I mean, like, not to be egotistic or something, but always remind yourself, I have something that nobody else here has. I am better than all of them. They're all sitting there waiting for me. When you start to talk yourself up like that, the more you do it, you will get to a point where they're like 5 year olds. Now, to overcome the second reason, which is I don't want to make a mistake, the one advice I always give people is write your script or write the speech that you're going to say. And don't type it on a computer. No, just take a pen and paper and write it. Why? Because when you're writing it with your hand, the ideas will start to, sink into your mind. However, don't you ever memorize a speech. The biggest mistake as a speaker is to memorize it word for word for two reasons. Reason number one, when you speak out of like memory, it sounds like so like monotone. You're like a robot. It's like you're reading it. Secondly, if you forget one word, everything is gone. You forgot everything after, right? So if I'm not gonna memorize it, then why do I write it? Because you cannot just go on stage with just bullet points. I've seen people who say, I can have a vague idea of what I'm gonna say, and when I go up there, I'm gonna wing it. When you
With the
wing it
bullet
on
points, you
stage,
mean?
yeah, but it's like if you only have points and then you think I'm gonna make it up on stage. When you do that, your audience can tell that you haven't prepared anything. And when your audience feel that you haven't prepared anything, the first thought that will go into the mind is if this person did not care enough to prepare something, then he's not worth my time to listen to. Write it down, then read it 5 or 6 times, then toss it aside and stand up in front of a mirror and start speaking. You're not going to say the exact same words that you wrote, but the structure will be exactly the same. You know how to start, you know how to end, you know how to move to the first point, to the second point, to the third point. You know what you're going to say. It's not going to be exactly the same words, but at least you are prepared. And then I always give people this advice: ask a friend for coffee. And then while you're sitting, Starbucks or whatever, and while you're sitting across from the person, just say, you know what, I have this presentation I have to give in a few days. Can I try it on you? And don't stand up. No, while you are sitting having coffee. Why? A good speaker doesn't throw words at the audience. A good speaker makes it sound like a conversation. It's like I'm conversing with you. Even when I'm on stage, it's like I'm just having a conversation with you. So this is a practice for you to turn your speech into kind of like a conversation. You're sitting across from a person in a coffee shop and you start giving the speech to him. It's like you're telling a story. And then at the end, ask the person, did you find it clear? A lot of people, they try to use really complex words. They think it makes me sound smart, whatever. No,
Yeah.
people don't speak like that. And when you use, complicated words, people are not going to listen to you. So ask this person, did you find my speech clear? And did you find it entertaining? Meaning, did I inject humor in it? Did I add some stories? Were you engaged with me the entire time? And if he said, no, it was boring, or I have no idea what you're talking about, then maybe it's time to go back and rewrite it again in a way that will fit your like audience. Another thing that I always ask people to do is when you're home, take your phone and there is the voice note on your phone, record yourself speaking. Like imagine that you're gonna stand in front of an audience and record yourself speaking. Do it like 3 days or 4 days before you actually have to speak. And then when you're done recording it, when you're going to work, coming back from work, or going to the gym or coming back, just plug a headphone or whatever and listen to yourself over and over again. Why? If I asked you to sing your favorite song, you will sing it exactly like you heard it from the artist. Why? Because you've listened to it so many times, it's got programmed into your mind. You know where to hit the high tone and the low tone is what. Why? Because that's how you heard it. And the same thing, if you listen to yourself more and more and more, when you are on stage, you're not gonna be monotone. Your notes will hit the high note, the low. Why? Because you've listened to yourself a lot of times. And finally, as I said earlier, go on stage with the pure intention that you might save someone's life or change someone's life to the better. The fame and the money can come later. But when you up there with an intention, people would listen to you.
Beautiful. Because I was going to ask too, because I've listened to myself and I've asked others to listen to me too. And I've heard that when I speak, sometimes I have a high pitch towards the end. And I'm starting to be conscious of that too. But also, I've also been told I've been monotone as well. So you have to really balance that energy level of keeping the audience engaged and just being conscious of being monotone. So I think energy plays a huge
Absolutely,
a
yes.
role in public speaking. Let's go to body language. How does individuals work on improving their non-verbal communication skills, and just how do you go about with your body language? Because I noticed with your video you used a lot of animation, for example. There was a lot of different sound effects. Like, how do you improve on
I
that?
always say when you're on stage, don't tell me a story, show me a story. So if you're gonna enact a dialogue on stage, pretend there's a person right here. So, you're just looking at it. And then even change your voice when you're talking to the person. So it's like you're introducing a new person to, so it's like a play that's happening in front of you. And the audience find that very entertaining rather than me saying, so I said this, and then he said that, but then I said that. No, just act it as if it was a conversation that happening. I always tell people don't speak behind a podium unless you absolutely have to. Always stand on stage. Why? People will get to see your body, you will be more free, and you can use your hands to describe something as big or something as small or something high, whatever. Be animated on stage. However, don't overdo it because doing so much animation comes out as fake. And as I said, if the audience feel like this is fake, they're not gonna just listen to you. But when they feel it's genuine and from the heart, they will take you on.
Beautiful. Speaking of audience, public speaking often involves connecting with the audience on an emotional level. How do you engage and connect with your audience effectively?
So everybody has their own style of speaking, but I always tend to always start with the humor and then go to the tragic part at the end. And I've done this almost in all of my speeches. I always start by making people laugh. People love to laugh and hear stories. So I start by something funny, they get engaged, they're laughing, and they're like, oh, this guy is fun, I could listen to him. And then when they are happy, you can go and dive into the deep stuff if you have to. I've done some stand-up comedy where it's all just laughs, but also like when I'm doing some just keynotes, I always start by humor at the beginning and then I give the gist at the end. So you want to make them like you first in order to just listen to look what you have to say.
So disarm the audience first and warm up. Yeah, I like
Exactly.
that. Now, you do workshops on public speaking. What are the common issues people face, and how do you guide them to overcome these challenges?
So everybody, when it comes to public speaking, everybody has strength and like weaknesses. I've had people who are really good with words, but their voice is monotone. I've had people who really animated on stage, but they have no structure, like you feel lost. So not everybody is actually the same. But when I do my workshop, I always ask people to stand up and introduce themselves. By watching, I can judge and see, okay, this guy has a really good voice. However, he drags too long or he stray away from the subject, for example, or like this guy is really closed off. Or so I make notes of what everybody needs. And then I teach the entire workshop taking in mind that I offer everything to everybody. But for example, when I'm talking about body language, I always focus on the people that I know that they have an issue on that side. If I'm talking about voice modulation, I focus on those. So I try to like mitigate or close the gaps, if you will.
Nice. And you've traveled extensively to conduct these workshops and
Yes.
deliver these keynote speeches. So it's really inspiring. Can you tell us about a powerful moment that showed the impact of good communication and personal growth?
Like one of my favorite stories happened, I think in 2018 or 19. I got an email from a guy in Sweden, and he was like, "Are you Mr. Qahtani?" I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "I've been looking all over the internet for you, and I'm glad that I found you. And I just wanted to thank you for your speech." And when he said that, I figured, well, he probably just saw part of our speech because that's the one that went viral. So I said, well, I'm glad you liked it, sir, or whatever. And then he said, man, that speech with the ball was just fantastic. I was like, ball? What ball? He said, the rubber ball that you had in it. I was like, I think maybe you got the wrong like person. He said, no, you, Mohammed Qahtani. I said, yeah. And then he sent me a link to a Facebook post from 2 years or 3 years back. And it was even shot with a phone, so it's not even clear. But I'm looking at it, and it's me in jeans and a shirt. And when I started watching it, I started to remember what happened is in 2016, I was supposed to speak in Brussels. So I flew to Belgium. And when I landed in the airport, there was a guy who was gonna just pick me up from the airport. So he's picking me up. I'm in the car with him, and he said, "Okay, Mr. Katani, can I ask you a favor?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" And he said, "Well, I am a member of a book club, and we meet every week. And actually, they have a meeting right now. It's one of the local pubs here, and we're about 12 people. And since you're here, can we swing by and could you speak for 5 minutes or 10 minutes?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we go there, and I haven't even prepared like anything, right? So I stand there and I'm speaking about how you can pick yourself up after a failure, or whatever. And on the table there was these like rubber balls, like the stress balls. So there was a ball with like stress balls on them, and I don't know how the idea came to me. I grabbed like one of them and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, us humans are like this ball. When we fall, we bounce. But if we fall harder, we bounce even higher." And I threw the ball and then like it bounced like really high. So I said, in order for you to really achieve high successes, you need to fall. And sometimes you need to fall hard in order for you to gain new heights. I don't know how the idea came to me. Anyway, so I finished the speech. I got in the car. We go to this venue and I speak and I finished. I flew back and I completely forgot about that speech completely. And when I was looking at the video, I was like, oh my God, it's me. And I'm looking, I was like, yeah, 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 that's me, yeah. And then he said something to me. He said, "I wanted to thank you because 2 weeks ago, I was at home with a gun in my hand. I lost my job. My girlfriend broke up with me, and I wanted to end my life. But I decided, let me go on Facebook first." I'm going to Facebook, and then I saw that speech of yours, and I want to tell you that I am alive today because of what you said. Keep in mind, even the speaker himself I forgot that I said those words. But you never know who's going to listen, and you never know when and where. You never know what kind of life that you can touch. Sometimes when we think our stories, we think, who's going to listen to me? My life is so boring. You don't know who's going to listen. What you say now, it might affect someone years from now or months from now on the other side of the globe. And then you might receive an email or a message that says thank you. And when that happens, you realize, okay, at least I left a legacy. At least I made this world slightly better. And all it took from me is just to say a few words. I always say everything that's good and bad in this world, it's only there because either the right person was given a chance to speak or the wrong person was given a chance to speak. So if you really want to make this world a better place, don't let that chance goes to the wrong person.
That's inspiring. So, what advice would you give to other individuals who aspire to become motivational speakers and make a positive impact through their words and messages, like you just did with that person?
Well, I would say first speak about topics that you're knowledgeable about and you care too much about. Speak with the intention that you want people to learn and benefit and maybe have a much better life. At the beginning, nobody would know who you are. But the more you do it and the more you speak, and every time you speak, just make sure somebody's recording you and post it on social media because you never know who's going to watch, right? It's like when you're having a YouTube channel. So you post the first video, only like 100 views. The second one, maybe 120. And then you might think, "Ah, nobody even cares." But if you keep at it, out of nowhere, one of your videos might go viral and you didn't even think that it will. Now, the purpose is not for you to go viral or not for you to make money. The purpose is for people to listen to you because you have something that will make their life better. Fame and money will come later, don't worry. But at least aims at you want to make this world a better place.
First and then making an impact and adding value to the world first. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Speaking of which, you like doing some philanthropy. So tell me a little about your philanthropy and what you're doing now.
I co-started the Saudi Arabian Stuttering Association. It's a nonprofit organization where we help people with stuttering, understanding what kind of stuttering they're going through, and we try to help them as much as possible. And it was really surprising because a lot of people who have personal issues or psychological issues, they don't talk about it unless someone reach out, right? It's been really a blessing just to be able to help, even if it's just for a little bit, just to help someone in need.
Yeah, and I think you're the perfect role model because you've done that and you conquered your fears, and to be able to share and teach that knowledge to others is just incredible. The impact that you can have too, and that viral video that I watched, over 2 million views. So you were definitely impacting a lot of people. Speaking of media, what books, podcasts, or resources have had a significant impact on your personal and professional growth that you'd recommend to our audiences? Do you have any
Well,
mentors as well?
actually, yes, I do have a lot of like mentors. I know where my weaknesses are and where my strengths. So for my weaknesses, for example, I'm not really good with words. I'm not a good writer. So I seek the mentorship of people who I've seen can write beautiful, I mean, like in a beautiful way. I also seek mentors in terms of body language on stage because that's not something that I'm comfortable with. So first of all, find out what is the thing that you're weak at or your weakness that you need help with, because now you know who to go to. You would know, for example, so if you're a person who would think, I want to make my speeches look a bit like humorous, but I don't know how to write jokes. Seek a person who you've seen can make people laugh. It's just mitigating the gaps that you have. In terms of books, I always say that speaking is not something that you would learn from reading books. I wouldn't recommend anything because there is no secret recipe. If you try to imitate other people's styles and other speakers' way of speaking, you're just going to be a copy of somebody else. Don't be a copy of somebody else. Just be yourself.
Be your authentic self. That's beautiful. Yeah, each person, like you said, has their own gift. So very, very inspiring. What's your vision for the future in public speaking or personal development? Because you mentioned you wanted to leave a legacy. What's your goals and aspirations for the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, like, I always try, if my schedule permits it, is I always try to accept any speaking engagement that I have. Because as I said, you never know who's going to listen, right? But I had this goal 3 years ago. I wanted to speak in 40 countries by my 40th birthday. And it was all set and I was gonna achieve it, but then the pandemic hits and all travel just caught. And so I had to postpone that dream. However, I do have a few events coming up in like, Europe and Mauritius, so I'm getting closer to that dream. My aim for the next 5 years is just to evolve as a speaker. You do not want to be the one hit wonder, you know what I mean? Like you cannot just have like one speech and then you just do it all over. So I always try to like innovate and write something new and see what the world needs and then write about it and speak about it because you want to address something that the audience actually need to hear.
That's beautiful. Like beautiful goal too, to travel all the world. I'm curious if I wanted to be a public speaker, be on stage, to impact people. I don't know. Do I have to have a product? You know what I mean? Like for me, I just want to tell my story because I know that I've got a story to tell,
Well,
and it's a
well,
pretty crazy story that I haven't told anybody yet, but I will. But is there a goal that or an outcome that someone needs to have? I mean, most people that you go on to see events and stuff of public speakers, there's always something that they're trying to sell. You know what I mean? So, what's your advice?
okay, so when that happened, if I'm a speaker on stage and right after I spoke, I said, oh, by the way, don't forget to buy my book or sign up for my workshop, whatever. It's like I'm telling the audience, I don't really care about you. I just want to get rich. I just want to get
Mm,
your money and leave. That's
mm,
why I would never on stage, like when I speak, I would never promote anything that I do. This is like a red line for me. Why? Because you want to come out as authentic. I care about you first. Now, if they want, they can reach out to you. I always leave my email, whatever. I said, if anybody want to reach out to me, but you don't sell stuff on stage. I think this is like a cheap way. Uh,
yeah,
I do
same.
agree, and I do agree with you. If you have a story, tell it. You do not know who you're gonna change or what life you're gonna touch. It's gonna be a long road because if you're gonna be starting speaking like from now, ask yourself, who's gonna listen to you and why? Nobody knows who you are. But the more you speak, the more people will see you. And every time you speak, just get people to take pictures or take videos and upload them. When I see you speak here and there and here and there, like, well, this guy must be good because he's speaking like everywhere. And then you get more and more, and then you will get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I just feel like everybody has got a good story to tell, and love to tell my story eventually. But I don't really,
Please, you do
I don't want
not
to sell any courses or anything, or nothing like
just
that.
tell it because you do not know who's going to listen. You might actually
Yeah,
change a person's life who's in deep need just by hearing your story.
yeah, that's true. That's what I want to impact people and just you leave a legacy and just move people as well and help them to grow and change for the better as well. So finally, what are you most excited about at this time of your life, and where can people find you?
So I'm excited that the pandemic is over, so I get to travel again. I just love exploring the world. Hopefully, if I'm in a place near you, you can find it on my like, website. Every time I go and speak somewhere, I just posted it on my website. So if I'm coming to a place near you, please don't be a stranger. Just come by. We can have coffee. And I always try to, as I said, like leave a legacy. So don't feel strange to come and talk to me and ask me like anything. And again, I'm just a simple human being, but if I can help in like any way, I'll be more than happy to.
beautiful. You're so down to earth. I love it. Well, it was a pleasure to speak to you and get to hear your advice and tips, because you've been inspirational on stage and it was really moving. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope the audience got some great tips and advice, especially with confidence and conquering your fears as well. Now, if you can conquer your fears and learn from your failures, like you said, the bouncing ball, you'll achieve so much more. And I really appreciate your time. So
Thank you so
thank
much
you
for
so
having me.
much. And
My
all
pleasure.
the best with your future speaking.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda.